Here is a strong and engaging hook point for your script. Every woman has that one person she cannot seem to fully erase from her mind, no matter how much time passes, no matter how much distance grows between them, no matter how many times she tells herself it is over, and she is fine, and she has moved on. She wakes up and the thought is already there, before the day has even begun. She goes to sleep, and the last thing her mind reaches for is a memory she has no business still holding on to. And the most painful part is not the thinking itself. The most painful part is the silence. No messages, no calls, no sign that any of it even mattered on the other side. Just her and her thoughts and the unbearable weight of a connection that her heart refuses to file away as finished. But what if everything you have been feeling is not a sign that you are broken or weak or too much or not enough? What if the silence is not punishment? What if the thoughts that keep returning to you are not evidence of your helplessness, but actually the beginning of the most powerful transformation of your entire life? What if the moment you stop running from what your mind is trying to show you and start listening to it instead, everything changes? Not just how you feel about that one person, but how you feel about yourself, your worth, your future, and the extraordinary woman you are still in the process of becoming. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear was made exactly for you. There is something deeply powerful about silence, and most people misunderstand it completely. They assume that when someone stops calling, stops texting, stops showing up, it means the story is over. But silence is not always an ending. Sometimes silence is the most honest conversation two people can ever have. And if you are a woman who has ever laid awake at night thinking about someone who is no longer in your daily life, you already know exactly what this means. The female mind is wired for depth. You do not simply experience people on the surface. You feel them in layers. You remember the way a conversation made you feel 3 years ago. You can still hear the tone of a voice that has not spoken to you in months, and you carry the emotional fingerprint of every meaningful connection long after the physical presence has disappeared. This is not weakness. This is one of the most extraordinary gifts of the feminine soul, and the world does not give it nearly enough credit. When someone truly matters to you, they do not just live in your memories, they live in the way you see the world. You notice songs that remind you of them. You walk past places that hold pieces of your shared history and feel something shift quietly inside your chest. You find yourself thinking about what they would say about something funny that happened, or what their reaction would be to news you heard today. This is not obsession. This is the echo of a genuine human connection, and echoes only exist because something real made a sound in the first place. Psychology tells us that the brain processes emotional bonds in the same regions that process physical pain and physical pleasure. This means that someone who has left a real mark on your life is literally wired into your nervous system. You cannot think your way out of that overnight. You cannot logic yourself into forgetting someone who reached the deeper parts of who you are. And the moment you stop fighting that truth and start honoring it, something remarkable begins to happen inside you. You begin to see the silence differently. Instead of reading it as rejection or loss, you start to understand it as space. Space for you to grow into who you are becoming. Space for clarity to arrive without the noise of constant communication clouding your vision. Some of the most important realizations a woman ever has about herself come during the quiet periods of her life, the periods where she is not performing for anyone, not adjusting herself to fit someone else's comfort, not shrinking or expanding based on another person's reactions. She is simply herself in the silence, discovering what she is actually made of. And what you are made of is far more than you have been giving yourself credit for. The fact that you can love deeply, that you can think about someone with such tenderness, even when they are not present, that you can hold space in your heart for a connection that exists beyond daily contact, that is a reflection of your emotional intelligence and your capacity for genuine intimacy. Not every person walking this earth has that. Many people move through relationships like transactions, never truly letting anyone in, never allowing themselves to feel the full weight of a real connection. You are not that person. You feel everything, and that is your superpower. The silence between two people who once shared something real is not empty. It is full of everything that was ever said, everything that was felt but never spoken, every moment that mattered and left its mark. And the connection that lives in that silence belongs to you. Nobody can take it from you. No amount of distance or time or unanswered messages can erase what was genuinely felt between two human beings who saw each other clearly, even if only for a season. So instead of measuring the connection by the contact, measure it by what it awakened in you. Did it make you more aware of what you truly want? Did it show you parts of yourself you had never seen before? Did it teach you something about love, about patience, about your own capacity for depth? Then it served a purpose far greater than its duration, and the silence that followed is simply the space in which you integrate everything it gave you. You are not stuck because you still think about someone. You are processing, you are growing, you are a woman whose heart takes things seriously, and that is something to be deeply proud of, because the world needs more people who love without shortcuts and feel without apology, and carry their connections with grace, even through the quietest seasons of their lives. There is a particular kind of restlessness that lives inside a woman when her mind is trying to get her attention, and she keeps looking everywhere except inward. You stay busy, you fill your schedule, you scroll through your phone at midnight, you start conversations you do not really care about, all because sitting still feels too loud. But that loudness is not a problem to be solved. That loudness is a message, and it has been waiting patiently for you to finally stop running and start listening. Your mind is one of the most sophisticated instruments on this planet. It processes thousands of signals every single day, filters through emotions, memories, patterns, and experiences, and when something important rises to the surface repeatedly, it is not happening by accident. When a thought keeps returning to you, when a feeling refuses to be buried, no matter how many times you push it down, your mind is doing what it was designed to do. It is pointing you towards something you need to understand about yourself, and the longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes. Female psychology is deeply intuitive by nature. Women have an extraordinary ability to sense things before they can fully explain them. You feel a shift in energy before anyone says a word. You know when something is off, even when everything looks fine on the surface. You pick up on emotional undercurrents that most people miss entirely. This inner knowing is not imagination, and it is not anxiety. It is intelligence of a different kind, the kind that speaks in feelings and sensations rather than logic and data, and it is one of the most powerful navigational tools you will ever possess. So when your mind keeps bringing something back to you, when a certain thought pattern keeps looping, when you find yourself returning to the same emotional place over and over again, the question is not how do you make it stop? The real question is, what is it showing you? Because your mind does not repeat things randomly. It repeats the things that are unresolved, the things that carry unfinished lessons, the things that hold a key to your next level of growth and self-awareness. Maybe it is showing you a pattern you have been living in without realizing it. Maybe it is revealing a need that you have been neglecting, a need for deeper connection, for more honesty, for boundaries you have been too afraid to set. Maybe it is reflecting back to you a version of yourself that you outgrew a long time ago, but never officially said goodbye to. Whatever it is, it deserves your full attention and not your resistance. One of the most transformative things a woman can do is develop the habit of turning inward with curiosity instead of judgment. Instead of telling yourself that you are overthinking or being too emotional, ask yourself what this feeling is really about. Sit with the discomfort long enough to hear what it is actually saying. Journal it out. Speak it out loud to yourself in a quiet room. Let the thought fully form instead of cutting it off at the beginning because you are afraid of where it might lead you. Because here is what happens when you finally listen. Clarity arrives. Not all at once, not in a neat and tidy package, but in waves of recognition that feel like coming home to yourself. You start to understand your own patterns with a depth that changes how you move through the world. You begin making decisions from a place of self-awareness rather than reaction. You stop repeating cycles that have been exhausting you for years because you finally understand where they began and what they were trying to teach you. This is the work that nobody talks about enough. It is quiet work. it is internal work. It is the kind of growth that does not always show up immediately on the outside, but completely transforms you from the inside. And it begins the moment you decide that what your mind is trying to tell you actually matters. You are not overthinking, you are under listening. And the most powerful shift you can make right now is to slow down, get still, and honor the intelligence that lives inside you because it has never once led you somewhere that was not ultimately for your highest good, even when the path felt uncertain and the answers took time to arrive. Your mind is speaking. Your heart already knows. The only thing left is for you to be brave enough to listen and trust what you hear, because that inner voice has always known exactly who you are and exactly where you are meant to go. If this touched something inside you and you want more content that speaks directly to your growth, your healing, and the deeper parts of who you are becoming, then subscribe to this channel right now and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a message that was made specifically for a woman like you who is ready to stop settling and start truly listening to herself. There comes a point in every woman's life where she has to make a choice, and it is one of the most defining choices she will ever face. She can take all of that emotion, all of that longing, all of that mental and emotional energy that has been quietly consuming her, and she can pour it outward towards something that is no longer within her reach. Or she can turn that same energy inward and use it to build something extraordinary within herself. One of those paths leads to more waiting, more wondering, more of the same emotional place she has already been standing in. The other path leads to a version of herself she has not yet met, but is absolutely ready to become. Female psychology carries a unique relationship with emotional energy. When a woman feels something deeply, she does not just feel it in passing. She feels it in her body, in her focus, in her creativity, in her drive. Emotion for a woman is not a distraction from her power. It is the very fuel of her power. The same intensity that keeps her up at night, replaying moments and wondering about things beyond her control, is the exact same intensity that, when redirected, can build businesses, deepen talents, transform health, attract abundance, and create a life so full and so aligned that she barely recognizes herself from the woman she used to be. The problem is that most women have never been taught this. They have been taught to pour outward, to nurture, to pursue, to hold on, to wait, to make themselves smaller or more available or more palatable in hopes that something outside of them will finally give them what they are looking for. But the truth that nobody sits a young woman down and tells her clearly enough is this: everything you are searching for in another person already exists as a seed inside of you. And the moment you stop watering someone else's garden and start tending to your own, your entire life begins to shift. Think about the hours. Think about the mental real estate. Think about how much of your internal conversation has been occupied by something you cannot control, someone you cannot reach, a situation that has already shown you its answer, even if you have not fully accepted it yet. Now imagine redirecting even half of that energy toward learning something new, toward building a skill you have always wanted to develop, toward healing a wound that has been quietly shaping your choices for years without your full awareness. The transformation that becomes possible when a woman reclaims her own attention and places it back on herself is nothing short of remarkable. This is not about hardening your heart. This is not about pretending you do not feel what you feel. A woman who is in touch with her emotions is not someone who needs to shut them off in order to grow. She is someone who learns to be the one in charge of where those emotions are directed. You are allowed to feel everything you feel and still choose yourself. Those two things can exist at the same time, and learning to hold both of them simultaneously is one of the hallmarks of true emotional maturity. So start where you are. Take the restlessness and put it into your body. Move it, exercise it, dance it out. Let it become strength and endurance and physical confidence. Take the longing and put it into your creativity. Write it, paint it, build it. Let it become art and expression, and a voice that someone somewhere needed to hear. Take the love that feels like it has nowhere to go and pour it into your own healing, into your friendships, into your purpose, into every dream you quietly shelved because you were too busy waiting for life to happen to you instead of through you. A woman who builds herself does not just change her own life, she changes the energy of every room she walks into. She becomes a living example of what it looks like to choose growth over stagnation, to choose self-respect over desperation, to choose the long, beautiful road of becoming over the short, painful road of chasing what was never meant to stay. You have always had more power than you have been using. The only thing that has ever stood between you and the life you truly want is where you have been directing your energy. And today is the day that changes because you are not someone who was built to chase what does not choose her back. You were built to rise, to create, to lead your own life with such intention and such fire that everything meant for you finds its way to you naturally while you are busy becoming the most powerful and most whole version of yourself that has ever existed. There is a kind of grief that women carry quietly, the kind that does not always have a funeral, the kind that does not come with flowers or sympathy cards or people checking in to ask how you are doing. It is the grief of letting go of someone who is still alive, someone who simply no longer belongs in the chapter of your life that is currently being written. And if you have ever sat with that kind of grief, you know how heavy it can be, how it shows up in the most unexpected moments, how it does not follow a timeline or respond to logic or disappear simply because you decided it should. But here is what that grief is actually carrying inside of it. Beneath all the sadness and the longing and the unanswered questions, it is carrying wisdom. It is carrying self-knowledge. It is carrying a depth of understanding about who you are, what you need, what you will no longer accept, and what you are truly capable of feeling that you simply did not have access to before that person walked into your life and eventually out of it. And that wisdom belongs to you forever, regardless of what happened between you and regardless of how the story ended. Female psychology has a profound capacity for meaning making. Women do not just experience things, they search for what those experiences mean. They look for the thread that connects their past to their present. They want to understand not just what happened, but why it happened and what it was supposed to teach them. This impulse is not weakness or overanalysis. It is one of the deepest forms of emotional intelligence there is, and when it is used with intention, rather than spiraling into obsession, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for personal transformation a woman can ever access. So the invitation here is to make a very important distinction inside yourself. Letting go of a person does not mean erasing them. It does not mean pretending the connection never existed, or that it did not matter, or that you are completely fine when some days you are simply not. Letting go means releasing your grip on the outcome, releasing the hope that things will go back to the way they were, releasing the version of the future you had built in your mind that featured someone who is no longer available to be in it. That is what you release. But the lesson you carry forward with both hands and you protect it like the treasure it actually is. Maybe the lesson was about your own worth and how long you were willing to accept less than you deserved before you finally reached your limit. Maybe it was about the difference between loving someone and losing yourself in someone. Two things that can look identical from the inside until you find yourself so far from your own center that you barely remember who you were before. Maybe the lesson was about communication, about what you need from a partner in order to feel truly seen, about the kind of emotional availability that is non-negotiable for you now, even if it was something you used to talk yourself out of needing. Every single one of those lessons is a gift. Not the pretty kind of gift that comes wrapped in something beautiful, but the real kind, the kind that costs something, the kind that required you to go through something genuinely difficult in order to arrive at a truth that will protect you and guide you and serve you for the rest of your life. And that kind of gift does not get returned when the relationship ends. It stays with you. It becomes part of the foundation of who you are becoming. The women who move through life with the most grace are not the ones who never got hurt. They are the ones who refuse to let their pain be purposeless. They took what broke them and they found the lesson inside the breaking. They allowed themselves to grieve fully, and then they stood back up and they carried that hard-won wisdom into every new room they walked into every new relationship they allowed, into every decision they made about their own life and their own heart going forward. You are allowed to honor what something meant to you and still choose to move forward. You are allowed to be grateful for the growth a painful experience gave you without being grateful for the pain itself. You are allowed to close a chapter with love and with tears and with a full acknowledgement of everything it was, while still turning the page because your story is not finished and the best parts have not been written yet. Let the person go with grace. Hold the lesson with both hands and keep walking forward into the woman you are becoming because she is waiting for you just ahead, and she is more healed, more whole, more wise, and more powerful than you can currently imagine. If this message spoke to something deep inside you and you are ready for more content that truly honors the depth of who you are as a woman, then subscribe to this channel right now and hit the notification bell, because every single week there is something here that was created specifically for a woman who is done shrinking, done waiting, and finally ready to rise into everything she was always meant to be.